Now, for more on this, we've reached Jamal Khashoggi's editor at The Washington Post, Karen Attiah, and she's in New York this morning. Good morning, Karen.
Good morning.
And we're certain this has been such a difficult time for you as an editor. So let's start with how you're coping today.
Not great. I think focusing again on Jamal, on his work, on getting his name out there, his words, is kind of what keeps at least me from really breaking down, to be honest. But again, we're monitoring all the developments. We're monitoring what both the Saudis and what the Turkish officials are saying. What is perhaps the most difficult and hard to deal with part of this is that the accounts are still conflicting, whether or not Jamal is alive or dead. We're still looking for answers and of proof positive of either case. Of course, we're hoping that he's still alive and that whoever might have him will release him.
And I read your opinion piece in the Washington Post, and in it you talk about how he really felt so compelled to write about what he considered to be the real Saudi Arabia, the good and the bad. What do you think was driving him to do that?
I think so. Again, for a lot of people who might not even know who he is until this terrible news, he'd been a journalist for 30 years, very well known, extremely prominent. Someone who you look at his Twitter feed, he has over 1 million followers. I think, and even right before he wrote his first piece for us. He had been told to keep silent, to stay off of Twitter. So that first piece in September 2017, where he talked about why he felt like he needed to flee Saudi Arabia, was really his first coming out piece. But I think just in talking with him, and he lived in the Washington area, he just really wanted to write. He really wanted to be a journalist. I would take him into the newsroom from time to time, and he would light up looking at all the reporters filing, and he just would reminisce about his own memories of being an editor. And so I think that was what really drove him, but he was also under tremendous pressure, and I understood that, particularly on his family. But he felt he needed to do it, and he felt the Post was the right place to do it in both Arabic and English, and that, as much as we could provide a platform for those who didn't have one anymore in their home countries. So we just had so many plans. We wanted to do so much more, and I hope we still can.
And Karen, it's interesting because certainly Canada has come into being in a very tense relationship right now with Saudi Arabia because of speaking out against the jailings of people who have been outspoken against the Saudi regime. So certainly one would expect that Jamal would have been very aware of the risks, and also you as the editor, of the risks of him writing about this. How much consideration did he give to that, especially when he was heading back to get these important papers that he needed to continue with his marriage?
Sure. I think he was aware of the risks, but he more than ever was really pushing. He was the driving force for having us do more, having us do things that were more regular, maybe a newsletter, maybe a separate set. Like, he really wanted to build something with us in both English and Arabic, because he felt like those voices were being silenced and pushed out, not only in Saudi Arabia, but in the region as a whole. So, he knew his country better than we did, and I think he knew what the risks were, but he decided to do his job anyway.
Well, Karen, we know that this is a difficult time for you, and certainly we are all waiting for developments, hoping for them to be positive in Jamal's case. Thank you again for joining us today, Karen, from New York, the editor at The Washington Post. That is Karen Attiah. Thank you again.